Australia's role in the Gallipoli campaign is well documented, but 100 years later, historians are still trying to learn more about the nation's defining military campaign. Now, a treasure trove of documents discovered in a small Queensland town has given them new cause for excitement. But the maps and diaries belonging to a surveyor who served at Gallipoli were very nearly lost forever. David Lewis reports.
It's an untold story, and I think it's a story that the whole nation should embrace.
The sort of documentation we've found here today can add much to the database of knowledge that we've got, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to find.
The central Queensland town of Emerald is a long way from the beaches of Gallipoli, but it's here that an extraordinary new account of the battle has emerged.
It's a story that the nation should know about, not just one little small community. I think it's going to be put out there for everybody.
Local surveyor Mark Murray has been unwittingly sitting on the story for 25 years. A pile of century-old documents belonging to his grandfather, a Gallipoli veteran, has been collecting dust until now. Did you understand the significance of that material at the time?
Nope.
And if you look at his enlistment record...
Enter Margaret Rawsthorne, an eager researcher from the local RSL who had heard about the collection and wanted to know more.
So we arranged for a meeting with Mark, and he brought in this suitcase, and he opened the suitcase, and it was incredible.
Inside the suitcase was a mountain of material handwritten by Private James Nicholas Murray, affectionately known as JN. Sent to Gallipoli as a foot soldier, the then 30-year-old licensed surveyor was later called on to perform higher duties.
Captain Connor sent for me to have day out and asked me to make sketches of trenches.
Today, JN's original field notes are barely intact, but they contain the most detailed maps to date of Russell's Top, one of the most strategically important defensive lines during the Battle of Gallipoli.
In one of the documents, that, which is the Russell's Top handover report, it basically says that Russell's Top is one of the most important lines of defence. It said if it doesn't have any second line, and if that line is lost, then Anzac is lost. And his work is the missing link to what that whole document is about.
As his pocket-sized diary attests, mapping the area while under fire was no easy task.
At 6 o'clock, had an exciting time going for water. Snipers were on the lookout for us. Bullets whizzed very close to us, and we ran with heads ducked in shallow trenches.
He talks about in some places where he's in the trenches and he's doing some coordinates, and he pops his head up, and just across 20 yards away, in his words, here's another Turkish soldier. So he ducks down and he just traverses backwards, and he says, I'll have to come back and do that tomorrow. But he doesn't show any fear whatsoever.
That's despite having more than his fair share of close calls.
Turks give this place a great doing with shells and bombs, several killed and wounded. Had I been in dugout I occupied a few days ago, after it was dinner time, I would have had my head blown off.
As the campaign dragged on, JN only ever complained about one thing, a lack of food.
Walked down to the beach in hope of getting something out of canteen. We were faint today. Nothing in canteen.
He's actually saying that, I'm starving, bitterly cold, can't get warm, and you can see his writing is deteriorating along with what he's saying.
Amid the chaos and the carnage, JN guarded his maps and diary closely, eventually sending everything back home in the mail. His grandson, Mark Murray, has held onto them ever since, although he very nearly lost it all just weeks ago. What happened?
Well, my office got robbed.
A thief stole laptops, cash, checkbooks and other items belonging to his business and took the war documents too, without realising.
That's what he booted the door in, and there was a big footmark on the door. As you can see, we've replaced it.
Yep.
with a deadlock now.
Okay.
At one stage I burst into tears because I was so close to the project and I'd spent so much time, on it, and I thought, how could we lose something, that is basically a national treasure?
And then he moved on into my room.
Mercifully, guilt later got the better of the thief, who confessed to police and returned the lot.
I was relieved then. That was a good feeling, that was a good feeling.
It's been painstaking work, but Mark Murray has gradually pieced together his grandfather's faded maps, page by page, to produce this incredibly detailed picture of Russell's Top.
I don't think, even in the War Memorial, they've got documentation of the detail of that tunnelling work and trenching work to the extent that we've got here today.
Captain Andrew Craig and his team are planning commemorations of the Anzac centenary in Queensland, and they're excited by what they've seen here in Emerald.
When you look at the maps that have been able to be drawn up of the trench works and tunnelling works around Russell's Top, that very important feature in Gallipoli, then if we can take this work and overlay it perhaps onto a topographical map of that, we'll get a very good idea of the sort of work that Private Murray did and just how that fitted into the whole of the plan for the fortification of Russell's Top.
JN was discharged from the army due to deafness and died in 1956 when Mark Murray was a young boy. He never spoke about the war, but his work is about to go on display in Emerald, and it's hoped the Australian War Memorial will eventually add it to its collection.
I certainly would like to see him recognised.
What do you think he would think of an exhibition of his own work?
He was not the type of person to promote himself.
He was humble?
Yes. So I would doubt he ever had any thoughts about it.